Alaikum. My name is Aïcha Siba. I'm a doctor of East Asian medicine in San Diego, California, and I'm just answering a quick question that I got as a comment in one of my posts, and I thought it's going to be a little bit too long for me to write out the response for this, so let me just make a quick video to answer this. And she's well aware that I'm making this, but I also think that it might serve other people. So the question is, like, how do you know if you have insulin resistance, or how do you know how sensitive your cells are to insulin? And the reason why we are talking about this is because a lot of us are suffering from blood sugar issues, even if you do not know that you have a blood sugar issue. And you don't need to be older, quote unquote. You don't need to be diagnosed with something like PCOS or diabetes or pre-diabetes, and you could still have this problem. In fact, diabetes and these more, severe metabolic diseases, they start to cook many, many, many years before you become diagnosed. So it's super important that you kind of know your body and know if you do have insulin resistance, which is a precursor to a lot of metabolic issues. And if you have it, then it's something that needs to be worked on. But now this is just on how do you know if you have it. Well, first of all, let me tell you what insulin is. Insulin is a storage hormone. Insulin is a super important hormone that's released when our blood sugar is elevated. And so if you eat anything, really, your blood sugar will spike to a certain degree. If you have something that's really carb heavy, your blood sugar will spike a lot. If you have something that's pure fat, your sugar will barely spike. So it depends on what you're eating. But either way, insulin is released, and it takes that sugar and it shunts it into your cells. So all of our cells, it's kind of like a lock and key mechanism. All of our cells have the keyhole, and insulin is like the key. It goes on the cell and it says, knock, knock, I have some sugar to bring for you. The cell says, thank you. The cell opens up, allows the sugar to go in, and then the cell has all this great sugar that it could use for energy and all of that. Excess, when there's a lot of excess, then that just gets eventually stored as fat. And so what happens, though, is that when insulin is constantly being spiked because we are either eating too much, eating all the time, like frequently snacking and eating, or we're eating a diet that's really high in things that raise blood sugar, eventually we start to lose sensitivity to insulin. It's kind of like if you've been using this key to open the door constantly, and suddenly the keyhole becomes kind of loose and it doesn't work as well. Or if you have a neighbor who's like constantly knocking on your door and then some days you're like, I'm not going to open it because I'm exhausted. That happens to our body. Our body gets kind of fatigued or resistant to insulin. And what happens is the brain starts to say, hey, there's still all of this sugar running in our circulation. We need more insulin to open up these cells. But the problem isn't that we need more insulin. The problem is that we need more sensitivity on the cells to open up and allow insulin to do its job. And that's the problem that a lot of us are facing. So you can get a blood test. You can either regularly check your fasting blood glucose with a blood glucose monitor, or you can test your blood sugar about a couple hours after you eat a meal and see how high it goes. Generally, if it's still above 115 after eating a meal, about a couple hours after eating a meal, and I know there's like 30 minutes to 2 hours. Talk to your doctor or dietitian about this, but you would check your blood sugar. If it's above 115, you're like, okay, I'm not really metabolizing this food really well as far as blood sugar goes, blood sugar regulation goes. Another thing is to run a hemoglobin A1C. And this is something that your doctor would also order for you, and that's going to tell you how your blood sugar has been for the past 120 days. 3 months. And that's a really good marker too. You want to make sure that your hemoglobin A1C is below 5.7. 5.7 is the cutoff mark of what's normal. And I like to focus on, bio-individuality and who the person is, but 5.7 is kind of just the general thing. For you, it might be a little bit lower. So keep that in mind. So that's one way. But now let's say, I'm not going to my doctor anytime soon. I just want to know right now what are some of the other signs that I could be looking for. Number one, if you get hangry, so if you go for longer periods of time and you haven't had any food and you start to feel shaky, shaky you can also have with hypoglycemia, but you start to feel off, you start to feel like upset and irritable and agitated when you haven't eaten and you're like, I need to eat something, that's one sign. So watch out for that. That's actually a really big one. If you can't go for long periods of time without food, that's a clear sign of insulin resistance. It's also a sign of metabolic inflexibility, meaning your body is having trouble going into your stored resources and using that as fuel. That's a problem of not having enough fat adaptation, because we are, especially if you're living in North America, most of us we have a lot of stored resources in our body. A lot of us, even if you're pretty lean, you still have extra fat that your body could use, calories that your body could use for fuel. But if you have been reliant on the glucose metabolic pathways for years and years and years and years, and you haven't gone for longer periods of fasting, then your body has to you have to exercise that slowly. And I might do another video about why you'd want to do this. I think this kind of leads to that, but how you would do that. And intermittent fasting for women and all of that is a really big topic. But basically, that's one sign. You start to feel hangry, okay? Another one is if you notice that you accumulate a lot of body fat around your belly. Now, a lot of us we all have different body shapes, beautiful, different body shapes. Some of us are naturally apple, some of us are naturally pear, some of us are naturally like orange or whatever, it's normal. But if you notice that for your body type, you notice a lot more excess weight around the visceral area, around your abdomen, central weight gain, that could be another sign that you might have some insulin resistance going on, chronic insulin resistance. Another one could be if you notice a lot of skin tags in your body, on your skin. So if you have them, you know what they are. Or maybe you've seen somebody with them, and they kind of can happen like around the neck area and stuff. But like little skin tags, that's a sign also of insulin resistance. So those are like the main ones. Another one is like if you notice that it's really, really hard to lose weight. Like you feel like you're doing everything right, and it's still really hard for you to lose weight. There could be other things going on there too, thyroid issues and some other things, but that could be another sign. So all of these, if like something is kind of ringing a bell, it would be good to just get it tested and see if that's a problem. And then if it is a problem, we can do some other things like which I'll go into inshallah in another video, but I'll mention quickly carb cycling, integrate more resistance training. So ladies, you're not going to become like this buff G.I. Joe from weightlifting. Don't worry about that. It's actually pretty hard to build muscle like that, but doing like resistance training is really good, and lots of walking. So there's high intensity interval training, which is really good, but there's also low impact lists, it's called, like low impact training. And that's something like just walking, like doing a lot of walking. And eventually that will really help your body too. So I hope this was helpful. Just a little quick insight on blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance, what to look out for, how some signs that you might have it, why it's important. I hope this was helpful, you guys. Let me just see if I missed anything here. Assalamu alaikum, big fan over here. Jazakallah khair wa iyaki. I'm so happy. Alhamdulillah. I'm a fan of all of you. I hope you save this video for later access. Okay, I think I'm going to save this on IGTV, inshallah. So I'll have it there. All right, guys, thank you so much. Best wishes. Have an awesome weekend. Assalamu alaikum. Bye, everybody.